Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Shadowed Shrine. Holly Arnold stood at the edge of the Isle of Wight's dense forest, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension. As the lead archaeologist on this expedition, she had spent years researching ancient myths and legends, piecing together clues that had finally led her team to this very spot. The forest was known locally as the Whispering Wood, a place shrouded in mystery and superstition. Villagers spoke in hushed tones about strange occurrences and eerie sounds that emanated from its depths, warning outsiders to stay away. But Holly was undeterred. She was driven by an insatiable curiosity and the promise of discovery. Her team, consisting of 3 other archaeologists, Tom, Laura, and Mark, stood ready behind her. They had all dedicated their lives to unearthing the secrets of the past, and this expedition was their most promising yet. According to Holly's research, deep within the forest lay an ancient shrine, hidden for centuries and rumored to be protected by a malevolent spirit. "Ready?" Holly asked, turning to face her team. Tom, a tall, rugged man with a penchant for danger, grinned. Always, Laura, the group's historian, adjusted her glasses and nodded. "Let's find this shrine." Mark, their technology expert, checked his equipment one last time. "Everything's set, let's go." They ventured into the forest, the air growing cooler and the light dimmer with each step. The trees seemed to close in around them, their gnarled branches forming a twisted canopy overhead. Holly led the way, following the coordinates she had meticulously plotted on her map. Hours passed, the forest growing more oppressive and foreboding, until finally they reached a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood the shrine, an imposing structure of ancient stone covered in moss and vines. It was larger than Holly had imagined, with intricate carvings depicting scenes of worship and ritual. At the base of the shrine was a massive stone door, partially ajar. "This is it," Holly whispered, her voice barely audible. As they approached the shrine, a chill ran down Holly's spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, and she glanced around nervously. The forest was silent, the only sound their own footsteps crunching on the forest floor. Tom pushed open the stone door, revealing a dark passageway leading into the heart of the shrine. "Let's see what's inside." They stepped into the passage, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The walls were adorned with more carvings depicting scenes of sacrifice and torment. Holly felt a growing unease as they moved deeper into the shrine. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. As they reached the inner chamber, the air grew thick and oppressive. The chamber was vast, with a high ceiling and walls covered in ancient symbols. In the center of the room stood an altar upon which lay a weathered, leather-bound book. Laura approached the altar, her eyes wide with fascination. This must be the key to understanding the shrine. As she reached for the book, a sudden gust of wind slammed the chamber door shut. The torches along the walls flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. Holly's flashlight flickered and died, leaving them in pitch blackness. A low, guttural growl echoed through the chamber. Holly's heart raced as she fumbled for her flashlight. When she finally managed to turn it back on, the beam revealed a figure standing at the far end of the room. It was a tall, shadowy figure, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. The temperature in the chamber plummeted, and Holly could see her breath in the air. The figure took a step forward, and the ground beneath them trembled. "Who disturbs my sanctuary?" a voice boomed, echoing off the walls. Holly's mind raced. The legends were true. The shrine was guarded by a malevolent spirit. "We mean no harm," she said, her voice trembling. "We seek only to learn." The spirit's eyes blazed with fury. "You have trespassed upon sacred ground. You will pay the price." Before Holly could react, the spirit raised its hand, and an invisible force slammed her against the wall. She gasped for breath as she struggled to stand. Tom, Laura, and Mark were similarly pinned, unable to move. The spirit advanced, its form shifting and warping. "Long ago, this shrine was built to contain a great evil. An ancient curse binds me here, and I will not allow you to unleash its horrors upon the world." Holly's mind raced as she tried to think of a way out. "We're not here to unleash anything," she pleaded. "We just want to understand." The spirit's eyes narrowed. There is nothing to understand, only darkness and death await those who seek the secrets of this shrine. With a wave of its hand, the spirit summoned a swelling vortex of darkness. Holly felt herself being pulled toward it, her body growing weaker with each passing moment. Desperation clawed at her mind. She had to find a way to stop the spirit. As she struggled against the pull of the vortex, her eyes fell upon the book on the altar. With a surge of determination, she reached for it. The moment her fingers touched the cover, a blinding light filled the chamber, and the spirit recoiled with a howl of rage. The force holding Holly and her team against the wall dissipated, and they fell to the ground, gasping for breath. Holly opened the book, its pages filled with ancient incantations and symbols. She had to find the right spell to banish the spirit. "Tom, Mark, hold it off," she shouted, frantically flipping through the pages. Tom and Mark grabbed their tools and advanced on the spirit, trying to keep it at bay. Laura joined Holly at the altar, helping her decipher the text. "Here," Laura exclaimed, pointing to a passage. "This might work." Holly began to chant the incantation, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. The spirit howled in fury, its form twisting and contorting as the words of the spell took hold. Nerva screamed, its voice filled with desperation. "You cannot banish me." Holly's voice grew stronger as she continued the incantation, the light from the book growing brighter and brighter. The spirit writhed in agony, its form dissipating into the darkness. With a final, ear-piercing scream, the spirit vanished and the chamber fell silent. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the temperature returned to normal. Holly collapsed to the ground, exhausted but relieved. "We did it," she gasped, looking around at her team. They were bruised and battered, but alive. Laura helped Holly to her feet. "What now?" Holly looked at the book, its pages glowing with a faint, residual light. "We need to seal this shrine and ensure that no one else can unleash its horrors." Together, they placed the book back on the altar and began the process of sealing the shrine. As they worked, Holly couldn't shake the feeling that they had only just scratched the surface of the shrine's secrets. The ancient curse might be contained for now, but the knowledge they had gained would forever change their understanding of the past. As they emerged from the forest, the first rays of dawn breaking through the trees, Holly felt a sense of accomplishment tempered by a lingering unease. The Whispering Wood had lived up to its name, and the shadowed shrine would remain a haunting memory, a reminder of the thin veil between this world and the unknown. But for now, they had survived. And Holly knew that she would never forget the horrors they had faced within the shadowed shrine of the Isle of Wight. The journey back to the village was a quiet one. The team was exhausted, both physically and mentally, from their ordeal. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a warm glow over the forest, but it did little to lift their spirits. Holly's mind was still racing, replaying the events of the previous night. The malevolent spirit, the ancient curse, the overwhelming sense of dread, it was all too real, and it had left a mark on her that she knew would never fade. They finally reached the edge of the forest, and the sight of the small, quaint village was a welcome relief. The villagers had always been wary of the forest and the secrets it held, and now Holly understood why. As they made their way to the inn where they were staying, they were greeted by curious and concerned looks from the locals. It was clear that news of their expedition had spread, and the villagers were eager to hear what had happened. Holly and her team gathered in the common room of the inn, and the village elder, an old man named William, approached them. His eyes were filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. "What did you find?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Holly took a deep breath and began to recount their experience. She told them about the shrine, the carvings, the spirit, and the curse. The villagers listened in stunned silence, their faces growing pale as Holly described the malevolent entity that had attacked them. When she finished, William shook his head solemnly. "The legends were true, then. The shrine is cursed, and its guardian will stop at nothing to protect its secrets. We managed to seal this shrine," Holly said, "but I'm not sure how long the seal will hold. The spirit was powerful, and it seemed determined to prevent anyone from uncovering the truth." William nodded. "You did what you could. The forest has always been a place of darkness and mystery, and it will continue to be so. But you have brought us valuable knowledge, and for that we are grateful." The villagers offered their thanks, and Holly and her team retired to their rooms, exhausted and eager for rest. As she lay in bed, Holly couldn't help but think about the book they had found. It was a treasure trove of ancient knowledge, but it was also a dangerous artifact. She knew that they needed to study it further, but she also knew that doing so would be risky. The next morning, Holly and her team gathered in the inn's dining room to discuss their next steps. They had a long journey back to the university, and they needed to decide what to do with the book. "We can't just leave it here," Tom said. "It's too important, but it's also dangerous," Laura countered. "We need to be careful," Mark, who had been silent for most of the discussion, finally spoke up. "I think we should take it back with us. We can study it in a controlled environment, and maybe we can find a way to permanently seal the shrine." Holly nodded. "I agree. We need to learn as much as we can, but we also need to be prepared for the possibility that the spirit might not be gone for good. We need to be ready for anything." With their decision made, they packed their belongings and prepared to leave the village. The villagers bid them farewell, offering their gratitude and their warnings. As they left the inn, William approached Holly one last time. "Be careful," he said. "The forest may have let you go, but its shadows will always be with you." Holly nodded, his words echoing in her mind as they made their way back to their university. The journey was long, but it gave Holly time to reflect on everything that had happened. She knew that their discovery was just the beginning, and that there were many more questions to be answered. When they finally arrived at the university, they were met with a flurry of excitement and curiosity. Their colleagues were eager to hear about their expedition, and Holly's team was soon surrounded by eager listeners. They recounted their story once again, and the reaction was a mix of awe and apprehension. The university's head of archaeology, Dr. Jameson, was particularly interested in the book. "This is an incredible find," he said, examining the ancient tome. "But it's also incredibly dangerous. We need to be very careful with this." Holly agreed. "We need to study it, but we also need to make sure that we don't unleash anything that we can't control." Over the next few weeks, Holly and her team delved into the book, deciphering its ancient text and uncovering more about the curse and the spirit that guarded the shrine. They discovered that the shrine was built to contain a powerful, malevolent entity, and that the spirit was bound to protect it at all costs. As they learned more, Holly began to feel a growing sense of unease. The spirit's warnings echoed in her mind, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Strange things began to happen. Doors would open and close on their own, objects would move inexplicably, and they would hear whispers in the night. One evening, as Holly was working late in her office, she heard a faint, eerie whisper. She looked up, her heart pounding, but saw nothing. The room was empty, and the only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. She shook her head, trying to dismiss it as her imagination, but the whisper came again, louder this time. "You cannot escape." Holly's blood ran cold. She stood up, looking around the room. The shadows seemed to dance and twist, and she felt a sudden chill. She grabbed the book and hurried out of the office, her mind racing. She needed to find her team. She found Tom, Laura, and Mark in the lab, and they all looked up as she entered. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. They gathered around a table, and Holly recounted what had happened. "I think the spirit is still with us," she said. "I don't think we managed to banish it completely," Tom frowned. "But we sealed the shrine. How can it still be here?" "The book," Laura said quietly. "It must be connected to the spirit. As long as we have it, the spirit has a way to reach us." Holly nodded. "We need to find a way to break the connection. We need to finish what we started." Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly to uncover a way to permanently seal the spirit. They studied the book, cross-referencing its text with other ancient manuscripts, and finally, they found a ritual that might work. It was risky and complicated, but it was their only hope. The night of the ritual, they gathered in a secluded part of the campus, away from prying eyes. They set up a circle of protection, using symbols and artifacts they had gathered from their research. Holly stood at the center holding the book, while Tom, Laura, and Mark took their places around her. As they began the ritual, a cold wind swept through the area, and the shadows seemed to come alive. Holly's voice was steady as she chanted the incantation, the words flowing from the ancient text. The wind grew stronger, and the temperature dropped, but they continued, determined to see it through. Suddenly, the spirit appeared, its eyes blazing with fury. "You cannot banish me," it roared, its voice echoing through the night. Holly continued to chant, her voice unwavering. The circle of protection glowed with a bright light, and the spirit writhed in agony. With a final, desperate scream, the spirit was pulled into the book, and the light from the circle intensified, sealing it within. The wind died down, and the temperature returned to normal. Holly and her team collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. They had done it, they had banished the spirit, and sealed the shrine's curse. In the days that followed, Holly and her team were hailed as heroes. Their discovery and their bravery had not only uncovered a piece of ancient history, but had also protected the world from a great evil. The book was placed in a secure, protected vault, where it could be studied without fear of unleashing its horrors. Holly knew that the shadows of the shrine would always be with her, a reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the veil of the known world. But she also knew that she had faced that darkness and emerged victorious. The shattered shrine of the Isle of Wight would remain a haunting memory, but it would no longer pose a threat. And as Holly looked to the future, she knew that there were still many more secrets to uncover and many more mysteries to solve. But whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them, armed with the knowledge and the courage that had brought her through the darkest of nights. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.